Hello, this is Chapter 2, Section 4, Prefixes and Equalities. One of the most useful aspects of the metric system is the use of prefixes in front of the units. If you've ever struggled to remember how many ounces in a pound or cups in a pint, you'll probably appreciate the more logical system of metric units. In the metric system, a prefix can be placed in front of any unit to scale it up or down by some factor of 10. For example, the prefix milli is used to make a unit 1,000 times smaller, and micro is used to make a unit 1,000,000 times smaller. So 1 milligram, mg, is 1/1000th of a gram, and 1 microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram. This chart shows you some of the prefixes that you can use for any metric unit. While there are prefixes for most multiples of 10, we usually only care about the most common ones, which occur every time the unit changes by a factor of 1,000. You can see you add 3 zeros at each step. So here it says the prefix for 1,000 is kilo, meaning a kilometer is 1,000 meters. As a side note, the word kilometer is used a lot in everyday speech and has kind of evolved into kilometer as a common alternative pronunciation, similar to words like thermometer and odometer. Either pronunciation is fine. All right, getting back to the prefixes, the next one we see is mega for a million, or 10 to the 6th. So a megagram is 1,000,000 grams. The next one is giga, which means a billion, or 10 to the 9th. So a gigameter is 1,000,000,000 meters. The next two, tera and peta, tera for a trillion and peta for a quadrillion, are much less common. You should still try to remember all of them, but definitely focus on these first three. When you're memorizing the prefixes, you need to know three things about each one. First, the prefix itself. Second, the power of 10 it corresponds to. And third, the abbreviation for it that's actually used much more often than the entire prefix. For kilo, it's a small k, but the rest of the large number prefixes are capital. Capital M for mega, capital G for giga, and so on. It's very important to be clear about capitalization. If you don't follow the standard convention, people will probably not understand the unit you're trying to convey. In fact, on the next slide, we'll see that a lowercase abbreviation sometimes refers to a completely different prefix. On this slide, we see the prefixes for the smaller units, which are negative powers of 10. The major prefixes here, again, correspond to multiples of 1,000, but this time you're dividing by 1,000. So for any unit, if you divide by 1,000, you get milli, divide by 1,000 again, you get micro, by 1,000 again, you get nano, and so on. But there are also a couple of common prefixes here, which refer to 1/10th deci and 1/100th centi. A very common example that you may know already is that a centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. Another thing to note here is the abbreviation for micro, which is this symbol, mu. It's a Greek letter that sort of looks like a script U. In some places where Greek letters aren't available, like for instance entering medical records in a computer system, the mu symbol will be replaced by MC. So micrograms are sometimes abbreviated as MCG, for example. This is the only example of a prefix ever being abbreviated with more than one letter, and you should make sure that you don't confuse it with a combination of the milli and centi prefixes. In fact, I should point out that you never combine more than one prefix in front of a single unit, so you would never have something like a mega kilogram or a giga centimeter. Once you get comfortable with the prefixes, you should be able to quickly interpret them as some multiple of the base unit used. All you have to do is replace the prefix with the scale factor or numerical value it refers to. So for example, if you see the word kilometer, you know that kilo means 1,000, so you should understand that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. This lets you express the relationship as an equation, as you see here. It'll also help you a lot if you can understand the corresponding power of 10. Kilo is 1,000, which is 10 to the 3rd. For this example, the question asks us to give the correct unit prefix for the measurement on the left-hand side. Take a minute to try to figure these out before moving on to the answers on the next slide. The first measurement here is 1,000 meters. We've already seen this one a few times, so you should be able to remember that the prefix for 1000 is kilo, which is abbreviated as lowercase k. The second one requires us to recognize a negative power of 10. For now, you may still need to refer back to the chart to find which prefix means 10 to the negative third. If you're a little more comfortable with powers of 10, you may recognize that 10 to the negative third is 1 over 1000, or 1 1,000th. You could even think of this as a scientific notation with a coefficient of just 1. Since the exponent is negative 3, you move the decimal 3 places to get a number that's smaller than 1, which would be 0.001. However you want to think about it, the correct prefix for this factor is milli, abbreviated as little m. So the answer is mg for milligram. The last one gives you the power of 10 expressed as a decimal. Again, it helps if you understand it in a few different ways. You could put it into scientific notation by seeing that you have to move the decimal 2 places to get a coefficient of 1, and since it's a small number, the power of 10 is going to be negative, so negative 2. An easier way for this example might be to think about the place values. The first 0 after the decimal is the 10th place, and the next place with the 1 is the 100th place. So which prefix refers to 1/100th? It's centi, and so the unit is cm for centimeter. This system takes some getting used to, but one advantage of the metric system is that there's just one base unit for each type of measurement you can make. For length, it's the meter, abbreviated by little m. By using prefixes, you can turn the meter into a unit that's more convenient for the range of measurements you typically make. For example, an ophthalmologist or eye doctor might measure the diameter of your retina in centimeters, cm, while a surgeon would measure the width of a nerve or blood vessel in millimeters, mm. But whatever you use, it can always be easily related back to the base unit. In health sciences, you'll frequently need to measure volumes of 1 liter or smaller. A tenth of a liter is a deciliter, abbreviated small d, capital L. A thousandth of a liter is a milliliter, abbreviated small m, capital L. Understanding these prefixes can help us relate deciliters to milliliters by using the base unit as a connection. 1 liter equals 10 deciliters, but 1 liter also equals 1,000 milliliters. This means that 10 deciliters must equal 1,000 milliliters. We can further simplify that relationship by dividing both sides by 10 to get 1 deciliter equals 100 milliliters. We're going to be using a lot of metric conversion factors throughout this course, so the more you practice with them, the better off you'll be. The cubic centimeter is a common medical unit of volume derived from the centimeter length unit. If you have a cube where all 3 sides equal 1 centimeter, the volume of that cube will be length times width times height, or 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, which equals 1 centimeter cubed, or 1 cubic centimeter, abbreviated as cc. It turns out that 1 cc is actually equal to 1 milliliter, so they can be used interchangeably. This slide shows us how to see that 1 cc equals 1 ml. A cube that's 1 decimeter on each side has a volume of 1 liters, but a decimeter is 10 centimeters, so this same volume will be 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters, which equals 1,000 centimeters cubed. This tells us that a cubic centimeter is 1 1,000th of a liter, which is exactly the definition of a milliliter. Oftentimes, medical equipment like syringes will be marked in either cc's or ml's, so you should remember that they're the same thing. Here we see some common mass units like kilograms for body weight or milligrams for medicinal doses. By now we've seen these prefixes quite a bit, so let's move on. This learning check is a quick review of comparing units with different prefixes. For each pair of units, pick which one is the larger of the two. Take a moment to try it before going on to the next slide. For A, we have mm and cm, or millimeters and centimeters. Remember that a millimeter is 1 1,000th of a meter, while a centimeter is 1 100th, so the centimeter is larger. For B, we have kilogram and centigram. A centigram is smaller than a gram, and a kilogram is 1,000 grams, so the kilogram is obviously larger. For C, we have milliliter versus microliter. Milliliter is 1/1000th of a liter, and microliter is 1/1,000,000th of a liter. So the milliliter is larger. And finally, for D, we have kiloliters and microliters. Remember, MC is an alternative abbreviation for micro. Hopefully by now you recognize that a kiloliter is much larger than a microliter.